came in 1999. As we know, the web has changed a lot since then. So HTML5 is not yet completed, but it is a work still in progress. However, the major browsers support many of the new HTML5 elements and APIs. Some rules have been derived from HTML5. One of them is new features of HTML5 should be based on HTML, CSS, DOM and JavaScript. As we know, DOM stands for Document Object Model. Another is to reduce the need for external plugins. It should provide us with better error handling and device independence. So now we will go ahead and explore some of the new features for HTML5. First is the introduction of canvas element for 2D drawing. Video and audio tags have also been introduced for media playback. The most interesting feature is the support for local storage. There are also new form controls like calendar, date time, email URL, search, etc. One should note that calendar control has been provided in scripting languages like ASP.NET, but it was lacking in plain HTML. So it is an exciting new feature. Now comes the most obvious question from most of the developers. What about the browser support for HTML5? Let me state that HTML5 is not yet an official standard and no browsers have full HTML5 support. But one should keep in mind that all the major browsers continue to add new HTML5 features to their latest versions. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and looking forward to the second one. Thank you.
Hello guys, this is the second tutorial in the series of HTML5. If you have missed the previous tutorial, you can always get back to the introduction of the HTML5. This tutorial is all about introducing you with the new elements in HTML5. So let's get started. In the previous version of HTML, some of the elements have been obsolete or never used. That's why some of the new elements in HTML5 are introduced. So this is the exhaustive list of the new elements in HTML5. Although it is not possible to include all of the elements, the major elements have been introduced. First is the article element. It basically defines an article. Next is the figure. Figure specifies self-contained content like illustrations, diagrams, and photos. Then comes header and footer. As we know, a document is rhetorically divided in header and footer, and in between header and footer comes the content. So header defines a header for a document or section. Likewise, footer defines a footer for a document or section. Then comes the H group tag. It represents logically grouped headings like H1 to H6 headings. Next in our list is progress tag. It represents a progress of a particular task. Then comes time. Time represents a date and time, which was not possible to display logically in HTML, the previous version of HTML5. Next are the media tags. First is audio and video tags. In this tags, we can embed files like MP4, MP3, FLV or such kind of content, which is streaming content. Then the source code, source and embed tag. These tags are used in conjunction with audio and video tag. Source provides the source file and embed tag provided with a plugin. Then next in our list is track. It provides text tracks for audio and video tags. The last but not the least is navigation. It is NAV. What it does is basically defines navigation links. We will see the practical example of this tag later on. So first in our list is article element. Inside the body of article elements, the intricacies of the article tags or the body of the tag is there in between. So the next is navigation. As we know, in the previous version of HTML, we defined the logical links inside a division. That is, we know it is as div. But now in HTML5, all of the related links are logically connected via a navigation tag. So inside the body of the tag, all the main links are embedded. So now comes the interesting one. This is the progress element. It is used to track the progress of an upload task. It is used in conjunction with scripting languages like JavaScript. So that's it. And now comes the removed or deprecated elements. So first is the acronym, which stands for the abbreviation of a tag, which is replaced with ABBR tag in HTML5. The most commonly used for animation is applet tag, which is also removed from the HTML5. Then comes the turn form, big, center, dir, font, and frame tags. No frames and strikes have also been removed. So hope you enjoy the tutorial. Thank you. Hello guys. This is the third tutorial in the series of HTML5. So in this tutorial, we will study the canvas element in detail. So let's get started. What is the use of canvas element? Canvas element is used to draw graphics on the fly on a web page. Now here the term on the fly means we will draw any graphics via a scripting language. So with the use of canvas element, we can draw a rectangle, a gradient rectangle, a multicolor rectangle, or even draw a multicolor text onto the canvas. So what is a canvas? The HTML5 canvas element is used to draw graphics via scripting. The canvas element is only a container for the graphics. As we have mentioned, you must use a script to actually draw the graphics. So here in our case, the scripting language that we use is JavaScript, which is a client-side language. Canvas has several methods for drawing paths, boxes, circles, characters, and adding images. But for the sake of this tutorial, we'll only draw a 2D rectangle with the use of canvas element and some JavaScript stuff. So this is the HTML coding for drawing a rectangle. First, we define a canvas with an ID myCanvas. There is no styles attached to the canvas element. However, we can provide it with styles using style sheets. So inside the canvas element, we are putting the alert message in case the user browser does not support HTML5 canvas tag. So in JavaScript, first of all, we are getting the reference to our canvas element using document.getElementById method. Then comes the getContext object. GetContext object is built in HTML5 object with many properties. Here we must specify the 2D parameter, which stands for 2 dimension. The next is to define field style. It basically selects a color in which the rectangle must be filled. In our case, we are selecting the red color. As we know, in RGB, in hexadecimal color coding, first 2 digits stands for red and then other 2 are for green and remaining 2 are for blue. So we are specifying the red color as the field style. Then we are filling the rectangle. Now it accepts 4 parameters. First two are the x and y coordinates. The next one is width and the last one is the height of the rectangle. Then we are entering the script tag and also the body and HTML. Now if we preview this script or this HTML page in our web browser, we will see a red color rectangle. Now if in case our browser does not support HTML5 text, we will see the message that your browser does not support the HTML5 canvas tag. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you. Hello guys, this is the continuation of the HTML5 series. So in this tutorial we'll learn about SVG, another exciting feature that HTML supports. So let's get started. What is SVG? So SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. SVG is used to define vector-based graphics for the web. So we can say that SVG is tailor-made for web applications and to suit the modern web designing. SVG defines the graphics in XML format. So any tool that can interpret XML can interpret the SVG documents as well. SVG graphics do not lose any quality if they are zoomed or resized, thus making them the prime candidates for higher quality images. Another thing is SVG is a W3C recommendation also. So what are the advantages of SVG? SVG has numerous advantages over traditional graphics format. One of them is SVG images can be created and edited with any text editor. They can also be searched, indexed, scripted, and compressed. SVG images are also scalable. And as we have previously stated that SVG images are zoomable without any degradation. So what are the differences between SVG and Canvas, and who is the clear winner among them? SVG is a language for describing 2D graphics in XML, while on the other hand, Canvas draws 2D graphics on the fly with a JavaScript. But Canvas doesn't support JavaScript-based event handling, while SVG supports JavaScript-based event handling. SVG is also XML based, which means that every element is available within the SVG DOM, so providing better event handling. Canvas is rendered pixel by pixel. So in Canvas, once the graphic is drawn, it is forgotten by the browsers. So it is basically used in gaming applications, while SVG is currently used in Google Maps where the rendering area is large. So this was the comparison between SVG and Canvas. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hello friends, this is the continuation of our HTML5 series. So in this tutorial, we will learn about the exciting new feature of drag and drop. So drag and drop is a very common feature. It happens when you grab an object and drag it to a different location. You might have seen the drag and drop feature in all the modern shopping carts, when you can drag a product and drop it onto the shopping cart. In HTML5, drag and drop is a part of the standard. An element is draggable. It might seem complicated, but let us go through all the different parts of a drag and drop event. So this is the code. You can see some of the JavaScript and styling has also been applied here. So if you are not familiar with JavaScript, you can always go back and look at our JavaScript tutorials. So our objective here is to drag an image and drop it onto a container. So in this case, our container is the division and the draggable element is the image. So this is the image. First of all, to make an element draggable, set its draggable attribute to true. So we are setting the draggable attribute of the image to true. Then look at the JavaScript function. The function that is called on drag start is the drag, and event is the argument which is passed. So on drag start we call the drag function. So this is the drag function. In this example, the onDragStart attribute or event calls a function which specifies what data to be dragged. Inside the body of the drag function, we are implementing the method setData. SetData method sets the data type and the value of the dragged data. So in our case, the data type is text and the value is the ID of the draggable element. So our next question is where to drop the draggable data. So in this case we are dropping the data onto the division. So it specifies the data that can be dropped. By default, data elements cannot be dropped in other elements. To allow a drop, we must prevent the default handling of the element. That's why we are calling the onDragOver event which fires allowDrop function. So basically the allowDrop functions overrides the default behavior and allows an element to be dropped. This is done by the event.preventDefault method for the onDragOver event. Now the last function is the drop function. It requires one argument. What it specifies is when a drag data is dropped, a drop event occurs. So here goes the body of the function. It defines what to be done when we are dropping an element. So in first case it overrides the default behavior, then it retrieves the data which is set by the previous method data transfer.setData. So it retrieves the attribute and data types. Then at last it appends the element to the target element. So a target element in this case is division, which is appended with the image. So in between here the image will be shown. So let us preview this script in any HTML5 compliant browser. Hello guys, this is the continuation of our HTML5 series. Hope you are enjoying this series. In this tutorial, we will get ourselves introduced with HTML5 geolocation. So what purpose does HTML5 geolocation serve? HTML5 geolocation is used to locate a user's position. The HTML5 geolocation API is used to get the geographical position of the user. Since it can compromise user privacy, the position is not available unless the user approves it. So what we recommend is do not rely on HTML5 geolocation feature since it is completely dependable on the user. Geolocation is much more accurate when used with GPS enabled devices like an iPhone. Our objective here is to extract the longitude and latitude of the user's position using geolocation API. So let's jump into the code. So this is the code. Here we first start with the document type, then comes the HTML5 and body text, which is conventional. Then comes the button. We are clicking this button, we invoke getLocation function. We are invoking getLocation function. We retrieve the coordinates of the user in forms of longitude and latitude. So in the JavaScript, we are declaring the function body. If you are not aware with JavaScript, we recommend to look at our JavaScript tutorials. So we first check if the geolocation is supported using navigator.geolocation method. If it is supported, then run the getCurrentPosition method. If it is not supported, then display an error message to the user. If the method is successful, it returns a coordinates object to the function, which is passed to the showPosition function. The showPosition function gets the latitude and longitude and displays it onto the screen. So this is the showPosition function. Then we end the JavaScript tag and body and HTML tag as well. So let us preview this script into our any HTML5 compliant browser. So here is the output of our script. If we click on try it button, it will display us the coordinates of the user. So we'll click it. So here it is. We get the coordinates of the user. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you. Hello guys. This is another step forward in direction of learning HTML5. In this tutorial, we will learn about HTML5 video tag. Many modern websites show videos. Video is nothing but streaming of beats. HTML5 provides a standard for showing videos. Until now, there has not been a standard for showing a video or a movie on a web page. Today, most videos are shown through a plugin. However, different browsers may have different plugins. So for compatibility reasons, one needs to install all of the plugins to show a video on a web page. HTML5 defines a new element which specifies a standard way to embed a video on a web page. That is, the video element is used to do this. Internet Explorer 8 and earlier versions do not support the video element. The video element allows multiple source elements. Source elements can link to different video files. The browser will use the first recognized format. HTML5 has DOM methods, properties and events for the video and audio elements. Audio element will be taught in the upcoming tutorial. Our aim here is to do some coding to play a video file. So let's document type is already defined. Then we write some conventional HTML and body tags. Then we define a division inside which we will embed our video. Video will be controlled through a play or pause button. This button will serve two purposes. So first of all, we define a division and apply some styling to it. So we are applying some styling to the division. Then we define a button. This button is used to either play or to pause the video. Then comes the heart of our script, that is the video element. We are providing the video element with an ID video1. We also provide the width. This is done for the precautionary purposes. Then we provide the source file for the video. In our case, the source file is the previous tutorial drag.mp4. Its type is mp4. So that's it. Then we close the division. and then body and HTML. So this is the basic file. Now by clicking this button, we want to either play or pause the video. So we need to use some JavaScript. So here is the JavaScript. On clicking the button, the video needs to either play or pause. On click, we call play pause function. The function is not defined yet. Here we write the function and script tag. This is function play pause. So this is the declaration of the function. Now we provide it with a body where video is equal to document dot get element by id. The id is video 1. So first we check if the video is paused, that is if video dot paused, then we play the video, then video dot play. If the video is not paused, then we need to pause it, video dot pause. So that's it. Then end the script tag and save the file. Now if we preview the script in our browser, the browser needs to be HTML5 compliant. We can see the video tag and the video playing. So let's preview this. When we preview it in our browser, so when we click on play button, the video will be played. So watch the screen. Here we have completed our video tag. Thank you. Hello guys. This is the continuation of our HTML5 series. Hope you are enjoying this series. If you have missed out any of the tutorial, you can always get back to the tutorials. So in this tutorial, we will learn about HTML5 audio tag. As we have described in the previous tutorial, audio was played using a plugin in all of the browsers. But HTML5 has provided a standard for playing audio files. Supported audio files are MP3, WAV, and so on. You need to consider that not all of the browser supports the HTML5 tag, in particular Internet Explorer 8 and prior versions of it. So our aim here is to play an audio file using HTML5 audio element. So here is the code. Here we are using the audio tag. Inside the audio tag, we are providing the source file. In our case, the source file is music.mp3. The path to the file is relative. You can always use absolute path if you need. In case the browser doesn't support HTML5 element, we are showing an error message that your browser does not support the audio element, and end the audio tag. We also end the body and HTML tag. So that's it. Now we need to preview this script in our HTML5 compliant browser. If the browser does not support the audio tag, an error message will be shown. So let's see the preview. Here, this is the output when we show the file in the browser. So When you hit the play button, the music file will be played. So hear it. So we can play and pause, and all of the majestic control is shown here without little or no coding. So that is the magic of HTML5. So thanks for joining with us in this tutorial. Thank you. Hello guys, this is yet another tutorial in the series of HTML5. This tutorial is all about input types which are introduced in HTML5. So let's get started right now. HTML5 has several new input types for forms. These new features allow better input control and validation. Not all major browsers support all the new input types, but the good news is that you can already start using them. If they are not supported, somehow they will behave as regular text fields. So there is backup for that. So this is an exhaustive list of new input types. These are color, date, email, number, search, telephone, and URL. As we know, URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. We will see each element in detail later on. So this is the first element. It is input type color. Color type is used for input fields that should contain a color. Below is the example. We define inside the input tag input type color and provide the name for the color. So this is a new element in HTML5. Then comes the new input type date. The date type allows the user to select a date. For example, we need to provide inside the bracket input type is equal to date to define a date input type. Moving ahead. Next in our list is email input. It defines a field for an email address. Interesting thing is it is auto-validated. So input type is email in our case. Then the next input type is the number. Number type is used for input fields that should contain a numeric value. You can also set restrictions on what numbers are accepted. So basically we can set the range of numbers here. In our example, the numbers are restricted between 1 and 5. Input type is number here. Next in our list is the search. It defined a search field like a normal site search or a very popular Google search. So input type is search, and we also provide the name here. If we want to process these elements, we need to use server-side languages like ASP.NET, PHP or JSP. Then the next input type is tel. Tel stands for telephone number. Defines a field for entering a telephone number which takes the input type of tel. Last but not the least is the input type URL. URL type is used for input fields that should contain a valid URL address. As we all know, URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So basically it is a web resource. The value of the URL field is automatically validated when the form is submitted. So it takes the input type of URL. So this was the end of our new HTML5 input text tutorial. Thank you. Hello friends, this is yet another tutorial in the series of HTML5. In this tutorial we will learn about new form elements into the HTML5. So let's start the tutorial. HTML5 has the new form elements like data list, keygen, and output. Not all browsers support all the new form elements. However, you can already start using them. If they are not supported, they will behave as regular text field. In this tutorial, we will see the practical example of output tag. First is data list element. Data list element specifies a list of predefined options for an input element. It is used to provide an autocomplete or auto-suggest feature on input elements. Here, we are using a data list to bind it together with the input. Here, when user types into the input field, automatically auto-suggest feature will come into play. Next is keygen element. The purpose of keygen element is to provide a secure way to authenticate users. It specifies a key page generator field in a form. When the form is submitted, server-side language generates two keys, private and public. Private key is stored locally and the public key is sent to the server. The public key could be used to generate a client certificate. However, it is beyond the scope of this tutorial to how to generate a client certificate. So this is the keygen element coding. We are setting up a form and then providing keygen element. Next is the output element. Output element represents the result of a calculation like one performed by a script, namely JavaScript. It performs a calculation and shows the result in an output element. Here is the coding for the output tag. Here there are two input types. One is range and other is number. The range is 0 to 100 and the value of input type B is 50. So when user moves the cursor, the addition of element A and B is shown into the X. X is the output element. So here is the coding which adds two elements. Now if we preview this in a browser, it will look like this. So this is the output. When you move the cursor, the addition will be shown here. So that was the end of our tutorial. Thank you. Welcome back friends. In this tutorial we will learn about new form attributes in HTML5. First of all, we will see what's new inside form attributes and then have a practical look at it. HTML5 has several new attributes for form and input. Form defines an HTML form for user input and input defines an input control. New attributes for form are autocomplete and noValidate. Autocomplete stands for auto-completing an input tag and noValidate stands for not validating the data when the form is submitted. There are also new attributes for input tag. They are autofocus. Then comes the pattern. Pattern stands for regular expression. We must provide a regular expression against which our input is validated. Then comes placeholder and step. Now let us see the practical example all of these tags. So here is the coding. First is autofocus example. So inside the input type text we are providing autofocus is equal to true. That is autofocus is equal to autofocus. So when the page is first loaded, this input type will automatically get the focus. Then there is placeholder. Placeholder stands for any of the helping message that lets the user know what has to be typed into that user input. Here we are providing with last name as the placeholder. Then comes the required tag. When user submits the form, and in case if he forgets to fill in the field, an error message will be displayed. Then there is step tag. It is used to increase or decrease in the multiple of that step. Here step is given 3. The user will be given the chance to either input 6, 9, 12 and so on. Then there is a min and max tag. It defines upper and lower bound for the input type. So let's see what happens when we preview the script into our browser. So this is the output when we preview the script in our browser. As you have noticed that the first name input tag has automatically gained the focus. Then there is placeholder. It gives the helping message of last name. Then there is required tag. Now if we submit the page without filling in the username, it will give us an error message. Here it gives the error message that please fill out this field. Next is the step tag. As we have defined step as 3, it will give us the freedom to input 3, 6, 9 and so on. Last is min and max. The upper bound is 5 and lower bound is 1. So one will be able to input maximum 5 and minimum 1. So here. So that was the practical example of new form attributes in HTML5. Thank you. Welcome friends. This is yet another tutorial in the series of HTML5. So today we will learn about HTML5 web storage. Web storage is a better local storage than cookies. Web storage is much more secure and faster. The data isn't included with every server request. So gradually it decreases the server cost. The data is stored in key value pairs, and the web page can only access data stored by itself, hence providing better security. It is basically comprised of two objects. First is local storage. It stores data with no expiration date, so it is a persistent storage. The second one is session storage. It stores data for one session. In this example, we will create a local storage object and then retrieve its value. Here we are clicking the button and it remembers number of clicks. So here is the code. First of all, let us have a look at the button. It fires click counter function on click event. Then we have a division with an ID result. When you click the button, the output is shown here. So on clicking the button, click counter function is called. This is the click counter function. In the body of the function, we first check if local storage object is supported. If it is not supported, then we instantly show the message that it doesn't support local storage. Then if it supports local storage, then we check if local storage.clickCount object exists. So if it exists, we convert it to the number. We must remember that everything is stored as a string. So we need to convert it either using parse integer or parse float, etc. Then converting it into a number, we add 1 onto the local storage. If it does not exist, then we set the value of local storage.clickCount is equal to 1. Then we show the result. So now we need to preview the script into the browser. So when we preview the script, it will look like this. So this is the script when we preview it in an HTML5 compliant browser. So we need to click here. It will show the number of clicks. Again, if we click it, it will show an increment here. One thing to note that even if we close the browser, the local storage will still persist. So it was all about HTML5 web storage. Thank you. Hello friends, this is another tutorial in the series of HTML5. If you have missed any of the previous tutorial, please look at them before you start this tutorial. This tutorial is all about application cache. Nowadays, in the web development industry, this is a buzzword. With HTML5, it is easy to make an offline version of a web application by creating a cache manifest file. We will look what is cache manifest file when we proceed. A web application is cached and accessible without an internet connection. That is, we can use the application while we are offline. Application cache is supported in all major browsers except Internet Explorer. Application cache gives an application three advantages. First is offline browsing. Users can use the application when they are offline, so reducing the server hits. Another is speed. It speeds up the loading. The last but not the least is reduced server load. The browser will only download updated or changed resources from the server, thus saving in the loading time of the server. So this is the application cache manifest file example. This is an HTML document with a cache manifest. So in order to make a web page cacheable, we need to include manifest tag. Here in our case it is demo.appcache. Then comes the body of the document. To enable application cache, include the manifest attribute in the document's HTML tag. Every page with the manifest attribute specified will be cached when the user visits it. The recommended file extension for manifest file is .appcache. So as you have mentioned, in a previous file we have named it demo.appcache. So this is the extension. Also, the web server needs to be configured for that MIME type. So the manifest file has three sections. First is cache manifest. Files listed under this header will be cached after they are downloaded for the first time, so they persist. Other is network. Files listed under this header require a connection to the server and will never be cached. Registration and login files fall into this category. The last one is fallback. Files listed under this header specifies fallback pages if a page is not accessible, that is we are offline. This is the complete cache manifest file. First one is the cache manifest. These files are cached first time we visit the web page. The other is network. So in network category, login page that is never cached. The last one is fallback. It is used as backup. As every coin has two sides, cache is no exception. Once a file is cached, the browser will continue to show the cached version even if you change the file on the server. To ensure the browser updates the cache, you need to change the manifest file. So keep in mind that some of the big players in the market like Facebook are using the app cache. So you need to use it wisely. So this was all about application cache in HTML5. Thank you. Hello friends. This is the continuation of our HTML5 series. In this tutorial, we will learn about web worker. A web worker is a JavaScript running in the background without affecting the performance of a web page. As you might have noticed that when executing scripts in an HTML page, it becomes unresponsive until the script is finished. If you have learned any language like ASP.NET or Java, there is a feature like thread or background thread. What it does is it runs in the background without affecting the entire application. So in this example, we spawn a web worker that counts number in the background. For the sake of this tutorial, we need to create an external JavaScript. So this is the JavaScript file. There is a function called time count. At every second, it increments 1 to the variable I and then posts a message. So this is simply a JavaScript. So we need to include this file inside our web worker. So this is our web worker file. Basically, there are two buttons. First is to start the worker and the other is to stop the worker. When we click on the start worker button, it invokes start worker function. And when we click on stop worker button, it invokes stop worker function. By clicking the start worker function, it first checks whether worker is supported by the browser. If it is supported, then we check if W is instantiated or not. W is a variable. If it is not defined, then we create the object of our worker by calling demo underscore worker.js, that is the external JavaScript. Then we subscribe W to the function. After that, we show the result. The result is the numbers being incremented. If worker is not supported by the browser, we show simply an error message that your browser does not support web worker. So what this script will do, it will just increment the number once we start the worker. Now if we stop the worker, it will simply terminate it. So invoking stop worker function, it terminates the web worker. So this is the end of our script. Now we need to preview the script. So this is the output when we preview it in our browser. So as we click on start worker, it will increment the numbers here. And if we click on stop, the worker will be stopped. Basically, web worker is not used for such simple tasks, rather it is used for CPU intensive tasks. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you. Welcome friends. This is the last tutorial in the series of HTML5. Hope you have enjoyed this series until now. This tutorial is all about SSE, which stands for Server Sent Events. HTML5 server sent events allow a web page to get updates from a server. Server sent events is one-way messaging. It is one-way messaging in the sense that server can send the messages, not the client. This was also possible before, but with server sent events, the updates come automatically. Examples are Facebook and Twitter. They use server sent events. The event source object is used to receive server sent event notification. So in this example, we will create a script that receives the notifications from the server and automatically updates itself. First we check a new event source object. If it is supported, then specify the URL of the server-side script. Here we are using PHP as a server-side language. Each time an update is received, the onMessage event occurs. When an onMessage event occurs, put the received data into the element with ID is equal to result. So here we are showing the response from the server. In case event source is not supported by the browser, we simply show an error message. So this script will fetch the response from the server and show it to the user. So server side script here is demo underscore sse.php. So this is the server side script. This is a simple script which sets content type is equal to text event stream and prevents the file from being cached, and then simply echoes the server time. So it notifies the client about the server time. So these two scripts are used to achieve this. Now we need to preview this in a browser. So here, this is the index of our server. This is the file we need to preview here. You can see that it is automatically getting the server time. So this is the output. So this was the end of our series. Thank you.